Was South Africa's long walk to freedom worth it? South Africa's history is one of deep scars and great resilience, a land where diamonds, gold, and fertile soil attracted the world's empires, and where people of all colors endured centuries of conquest, resistance, and hope. Colonization and the foundations of division. European colonization of South Africa began in 1652, when the Dutch East India Company established a supply station at Cape of Good Hope. Dutch settlers, known as Boers or Afrikaners, began pushing inland, displacing indigenous Khoisan and Bantu-speaking peoples. In the 1800s, the British took control of the Cape, bringing with them their own laws and settlers. Tensions flared between the British and the Boers, leading to the Anglo-Boer Wars, 1880-1881, 1899-1902. Meanwhile, indigenous Africans faced land dispossession, forced labor, and violent conquest, most notably the Zulu Kingdom, which fell under British control in the late 19th century. By 1910, the British unified their colonies into the Union of South Africa, a self-governing dominion under the British Crown. But this new nation served only a fraction of its people. 2. Apartheid, legalized racism, 1948-1994. The seeds of racial separation had already been planted. Black South Africans were denied the vote, pushed off their lands, and subjected to pass laws that restricted movement. But in 1948, things grew far worse when the National Party, dominated by Afrikaners, won power and implemented apartheid, Afrikaans for apartness. Under apartheid, the state created a rigid racial hierarchy. Whites had full rights. Indians and coloreds, mixed-race people, were restricted. Blacks, the majority, were stripped of citizenship and political voice. Laws banned interracial marriage, segregated schools and neighborhoods, and created Bantustans. Fictional homelands meant to isolate black populations. Resistance was met with brutality. The African National Congress, ANC, founded in 1912, led the fight. Activists like Albert Luthuli, Walter Sisulu, and a young Nelson Mandela organized strikes, defiance campaigns, and protests. In 1960, police massacred 69 peaceful protesters in Sharpeville, sparking international outrage. Mandela and others were arrested in 1962 and sentenced to life imprisonment in 1964. He would spend 27 years in prison. The third, the fall of apartheid. Despite repression, resistance intensified. 1976, the Soweto uprising, led by schoolchildren protesting forced Afrikaans education, was met with bullets. The image of a dying 13-year-old boy, Hector Peterson, shocked the world. 1980s international sanctions, economic isolation, and internal unrest weakened the apartheid regime. Inside prison, Mandela became a symbol. Outside, figures like Desmond Tutu and Steve Biko, killed in custody in 1977, rallied a generation. Finally, in 1990, under mounting pressure, President F.W. de Klerk lifted the ban on the ANC and released Nelson Mandela. IV. Freedom at last, the 1994 elections. On April 27, 1994, South Africa held its first democratic elections. For the first time in the nation's history, black, colored, white, and Indian South Africans voted as equals. The ANC won by a landslide. Nelson Mandela became South Africa's first black president. In his inauguration speech, he declared, "Never, never and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another." Fee life. After apartheid, gains and challenges. South Africa's transition was peaceful, but the legacies of apartheid were deep. Successes: new constitution, 1996. One of the most progressive in the world, enshrining human rights, equality, and dignity. Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC. Led by Desmond Tutu, it investigated apartheid-era crimes to promote healing, improved access to services, millions gained access to electricity, clean water, education and housing, political freedom. South Africa became a respected voice in global diplomacy and African affairs. Ongoing challenges, economic inequality. South Africa remains one of the most unequal societies in the world. Wealth and land ownership still lie mostly in white hands. Unemployment, especially high among black youth. Crime and corruption, these have eroded trust in government institutions. Land reform and redistribution, a deeply emotional and unresolved issue. Ordinary life. Today, for many ordinary South Africans, life is a mix of hope and hardship. In cities, young people enjoy freedoms their parents never dreamed of. They vote, protest, and dream big. In rural areas and informal settlements, poverty and poor service delivery remain harsh realities. Interracial friendships, marriages, and workplaces are increasingly common, but so are subtle forms of segregation and inequality. Conclusion: a nation. Still becoming South Africa is no longer ruled by race-based laws, but the wounds of the past remain. Its democracy is vibrant, noisy, and alive, but constantly tested. As Mandela said, after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. The journey from colonization to apartheid to democracy was long and painful, but it gave birth to one of the most remarkable stories of resilience and renewal in modern history.